Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seen Beyond and Through with Monty. I'm sure that the past couple of days you've been following the events like the world has been following the events. Trump supporters wanting to overthrow the government, it seems, want to interfere with the electional process, want to disrupt it, and want to just throw it out altogether. Now, on the top, those are Black Lives Matter protesters. And at the bottom, those are Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol a couple of days later. Actually, a couple of days ago, I should say. On the top, Black Lives Matter protesters from a year ago, and Trump supporters at the bottom a few days ago. It was very messy. The world's seen it. We've seen how America works, how America has a lot of issues that it has not dealt with and still refused to deal with. And it goes right here. What if they were black? What if they were black and they were storming the Capitol? They were trying to interfere with the democratic electional process. People would label them all types of things. They would be labeled as being crazy. They would be labeled as being mentally unsound, unstable, which is where I'm going to take this. Follow me. Now, I could not show the actual videotape because YouTube can get very sensitive and they can take it down. It could possibly add a strike because it may violate terms of violence, something like that. I got one of those before. So I kind of got hip to their game and just show you the still tapes right there because I don't want to get a strike. But here we go right here. Trump supporters acting up a storm. This is a little blurry there, but you get the idea. But it's all because of the wins that happened in Georgia, Georgia being overturned, and the biggie, Trump not being elected, which caused, Capitol Police to draw their guns. These could be Secret Service agents here, ready to fire if anyone entered the Capitol building where the votes were being counted. Here we go right here, another scene with the Capitol Police officer or Secret Service agent ready to fire. And actually, 4 people were killed. On that particular one there, I do believe that a female was killed. White privilege at its best. Shaking my damn head. Now, let's get into this topic right here. What I want to point out to you something. Okay, many of these people will claim to be Christians. Many of them will claim to be patriotic for a democratic election process to let it unfold. I'm sure that if Trump would have won, they would never have talked about, oh, it was rigged, or we need more votes count, or something went wrong. But I want to bring something else to you. Because remember, it said, what if they were black? And, aside from being shot, dead bodies everywhere, they would have been labeled as mentally unstable, which I want to bring to this topic here. Because I've noticed that even among black people, we are so quick to tell other blacks that we need therapy. We're so quick to tell other black people there's a lot of mental illness within the black community. But no one ever talks about the vast magnitude of mental illness within the white community that causes people to behave like this. What a lot of people do not realize is that white supremacy and racism is rooted in mental illness. Make your mental health a priority. No one has ever talked about how white people need to undergo therapy. They have been in a situation A situation in America for how many years? 200 and something years in America, being told lies that because of this whiteness of their skin, because of their race, ethnicity, that they're superior. That type of trauma you're taking over to your children, generational trauma, years later, lies of trauma. And you're carrying that years later, telling them or imparting in them or having a society do that. That because you are white, you are better. And that gets embedded and it gets passed on and it doesn't get dealt with because they believe they do not have a problem. Black people unfortunately believe they have a problem. They have no problem telling other blacks we need therapy. Some of us probably do. I do believe that. Some of us do have mental illness. But is it really any more in the black community than other communities? That's my beef with that. I don't believe it is. I believe that a lot of times what black people are going through is the emotional trauma of being under white supremacy and racism for like 400 years. A lot of what black people go through is cultural conditioning and dealing with the white supremacist system and racism. A lot of what white people go through is not the same thing. They get bent out of shape because they simply do not get their way. They get bent out of shape because they are believing in a superiority in which supposedly they have. They are believing that God looks upon them and shines upon them first. And you really have to wonder, do they see a problem? No, they don't. They don't see a problem. Are they going to seek help for it? Well, if they don't see a problem, they won't seek help for it. This type of behavior right here, stealing something from the Capitol and smiling. You know, the white community is in need of a lot of mental repair. This is the reason why we're so steeped in racism. The reason why we're so steeped in racism is because no one has ever sought to help them out and repair them. They do not really want to believe that they have a problem. Many unfortunate souls who look at whites as being superior probably would not look and believe that they have a problem neither. Yes, white privilege, white mentality allows you to do this. Here we go right here. And it's almost funny because, strange in a way, because black people would need therapy for a different reason than what white people would need therapy for. White people would need it to get over their superiority complex, their privilege complex. Black people would almost need it to get over insecurities. Things of that particular nature right there. And I just had someone email me or gave me a DM talking about how America is never going to get rid of this. And he's correct about that. If there is no type of long-term therapy involved, if there's no even start of a therapy, if there's no mass therapy, the masses are not going to get rid of it. And we have to stop looking at it as mental health being a black problem. Because I don't think that black people understand when they make statements that there's a lot of mental illness within the black community. There's a lot more mental illness within the white community. And black people need to understand this. When you start labeling yourself as being mentally, a mental condition, a mental illness, in the United States of America, that goes into a medical record. That's a medical record. It's a legal document. They can use this against you if reparations were to come up and saying that you're mentally unstable and you're delusional about your claims of racism in society. Even though it's right here, right in front of us, it's spelled out. People seen it. People won't believe it. People would choose not to believe it because you're so foolish to label so many of your black brothers and sisters as being mentally ill. This does on a medical record. It stays there. It's a legal document. And when people start to label themselves as being that, what type of meds are they going to dispense out to children? Couldn't they get up there and say, well, we want to help you out, and start giving medications to pregnant women to help alleviate their infants, children, from being mentally ill? Because you're falsely making claims that there's a lot of mental illness within the black community. When there's some there, mental illness is not anything to be ashamed of. It really isn't. If it is appropriately applied, therapy is not anything to be ashamed of if it is appropriately applied. I do not believe in associating that with people who have traumas that are associated with racism and white supremacy, though, because those are like cause and effect, which is going to cause black people to behave in a certain way. I know you heard the term that black women are masculine, but that is because she had to be both the father and the mother. 70% of black households, what is that, are single mothers. She had to be both parents, both genders in a way. So we can understand that as to why she behaves in certain ways or patterns. We can understand why it's difficult for black people to be united because of negative posing statistics. This is the reason why I speak out against them and challenge them when needed, and tell black people, do your own research and do not believe in all of these negative posing stats, because they are very damaging to your psyche. It's nothing but the Willie Lynch letter coming to fruition, which tells how it will divide black people, get them to loathe each other, be uncomfortable with each other, to hate one another because of negative posing stats. By the time a black child is like 18 years old, they have heard thousands of hours of more damaging news about themselves than the white child has. And you see why we cannot unite against white supremacy and racism. People need help for this type of behavior. White people need help for this type of behavior. Attempting to overthrow an election violates your oath to support and defend the Constitution. Violating your oath is a federal crime. You know what? If they would have gotten away with it, if they could get away with it, they would have done it. And we had, what is that? Over close to 80 million people who voted for a sick maniac, really a psycho in the White House. They voted for a womanizer. Allegedly, he's a sexual predator. They voted for someone with obviously mental conditions. A mental condition, rather. Well, yeah, I should say conditions, more than one. He displays quite a few. And they don't see a problem with that. We marched because we were getting killed. Y'all are rioting because you didn't get your way. We're not the same. This speaks volumes right there. Black people marched because they were getting killed. You're marching and rioting and taking over buildings, wanting to insert a democratic election because you didn't get your way. They are in need of some serious mental repair with this type of mentality. Maybe black people do have generational trauma. They do. I wouldn't deny that. There are some things that are passed on that they need to get over, that they need to work through, that they need help with. But so do white people. They have generational trauma, emotional things that they need to work through as well. Don't just put this blame and this hardship on black people and somehow let these cycles go right here, believing that they have no problems or issues to work through. They are mentally insane and unbalanced as anyone else. They're in need of deep mental repair. So I'll say this. Yes, there's mental illness within the black community. There's some therapy that is needed, but there is more mental illness within white communities, and a hell of a lot more therapy is needed. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty, and I will see you beyond and through.